Man, WrestleMania week has made you guys spoiled for content from us, man. We have the regular podcast, the wrestling podcast, my top 10 all-time matches, which is technically 12 or 13. I've lost track. And now, you Marky Marks out there, I'm Josh McCain from ClashOfTheNerds.com, and here are my top 10 manias of all time. There's 32 to choose from, so I did have a nice little list to go to. Number 1, speaking of 32, number 32. This one wasn't a very stat card as we talked on the podcast. It did have its moments. The women's match between Becky, Sasha, and Charlotte was fantastic. Some say stole the show. Me, personally, my favorite match was the IC ladder match. Everybody in its shine. We had Sammy and Kevin Owens tell a great story. The Miz, of course, mizzing it up. Dolph just hit some high spots, but when Zack Ryder pulled that belt off and embraced his dad in the ring, that's a Mania moment. That's what you live for as a fan. Then, of course, we saw Rock and Cena team up for a pseudo match. We saw Stone Cold, HBK, and Mick come out and save the New Day, and we got to see Sweet Chin Music, 2 Stone Cold Stunners, and Mr. Sacco ram down one of the League of Nations' throat. It was a lot of fun, and it was kind of funny seeing Xavier Woods get hit with that stunner. I know he loved it as much as we did. But the main reason why it makes this list is it was my very first Mania I got to attend in person. And I think for anybody who's gone to a Mania in person, those things hold a special place in your heart. You're lucky if like your first was something like X7 or 19 or 31. But 32 was my first Mania that I got to go to. I got to go with my son. It was an incredible week we spent in Dallas. The city of Dallas was a great host for all this. Got to do TakeOver. Got to do the access. We got to do the story. It was just fantastic. A wonderful experience. And it's something I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life. And I know everybody who's gone to a Mania, probably they'll do the same with their first Mania. So that's the main reason why it's in at number 10. Number 9 is number 8. Probably should have made this 8 so I could say 8 is 8. But no, 8 is 9 here. The highlights of that were Savage vs. Flair for the WWE title. I'm sorry, WWF title at the time. But that was a well-told story. And I'm trying to remember back, I think it lasted longer than the Rumble to Mania because kind of Flair was kind of dissing Savage the entire time. Talking about how he made it with Savage's wife and stuff like that. It was a nice, long, drawn-out story. The kind of story we don't see that often anymore in the WWE. And it had a nice capitalization with Savage going over Flair. Also, WrestleMania 8, we saw Shawn Michaels as the Heartbreak Kid in his first match, beating Tito Santana, who has a lot of losses in Mania. And then we had the great Piper vs. Hart match, as I talked about as an honorable mention for my best matches of all time in Mania, where Hart beats Piper, where Piper's going for the sleeper hold. Brett kicks off the turnbuckles and pins him with a bridge. Fantastic Mania card right there. Number 8 is number 21. We've got Cena's very first WWE title when he beat JBL for it. We had the phenomenal HBK versus Angle match. We also had Batista and Triple H, where Batista finally had enough of Evolution, left Evolution. And we had the very underrated Randy Orton Legend Killer versus Undertaker match on that card. Again, another great card with some great moments. Probably capitalized with the best match of the night, Angle and Shawn Michaels. Number 3, I'm sorry. These numbers next to numbers are screwing me up. Number 7 is number 3. And this one is mostly for the Mania moment of Hogan versus Andre. This was the Mania that made WrestleMania. A lot of people think that Hogan and Andre was WrestleMania number 1 because it gets talked about so much. But this is what really made WrestleMania and just shot into the stratosphere. Not to mention we also had a phenomenal match, which did make my list. So make sure you click it at the end of this video. We had Savage versus Steamboat. I talked about that match in a little more detail there, but that was a great match for the IC title. Number 6, got it right this time, is number 30. We had 2 big Mania moments here. One, the streak ending. And it's so funny with, again, talking about me and my friends. Mania was on the premiere of Game of Thrones. So it's like, what's a person to do? One TV had Mania, one TV had Game of Thrones. And we were mostly paying attention to Game of Thrones. But then we see the F5 happen. We're just kind of like watching in the side of our... Because we're like... None of us are thinking Brock is going to beat Taker. And at this point in Taker's career, none of us thought like Brock was going to carry Taker to a good match. We thought it was just going to be a bunch of punches, brawling. Taker would win in the end. And you see 1, 2, 3. We're like, wait, what? Rewind that. And we had to rewind it. We were just floored that Brock Lesnar actually broke the streak. But of course, the real Mania moment of that was Daniel Bryan just beating the Authority to death by beating Triple H and then going on to win the triple threat match to win that undisputed title, and just confetti. He goes out and hugs Connor. It was a great moment, just the yes chants. That might be the biggest pop ever at a Mania. Like, I mean, it was pretty loud in Dallas when Austin's music hit, but I gotta give it to Daniel Bryan. That pop was just, and that's a Mania moment. We have 2 back-to-back Manias that were really carried by big moments instead of big matches. Coming in at number 5, we got WrestleMania 10, which may or may not be a great Mania, depending on who you talk to, but I have it on this list for 3 reasons, really. 1, the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon ladder match is one of the best ladder matches ever. It kind of like made ladder matches mainstream. And maybe the best IC title match in Mania history. Savage Steamboat rivals it. It's a close one. Then we had Owen versus Brett early on in the card, where Brett was going for a roll-up, or a victory roll. Owen sat down, got the 1-2-3 win over his brother. But then later that night, Brett took on Yokozuna for the WWE title, and finally just throwing Yokozuna, who had basically held that title for a whole year. He beat Brett for it at Mania 9, which if we were doing a worse list would probably top that list. And then Hogan, of course, won it, but then the next pay-per-view, Yokozuna won it back, and then Yokozuna didn't drop it until WrestleMania 10, and Yokozuna was nigh unbeatable up to that point. So that was a big moment. That was kind of the signal of the new era. This was the first Mania without Savage, without Hogan, without the Warrior. This was a new generation, and this was showing 2 future big stars of the company, Brett, who is now the man, and Shawn Michaels, who is rising to be the man. This was their coming out party. This was them showing the world, hey, us smaller guys who can wrestle, we can take wrestling to the next level. Coming in at number 4, WrestleMania 31. I talk about the Rollins stealing the show in our top Mania matches, where he basically kind of almost saved the show from ending on boos, where he came out during the match and cashed in his Money in the Bank. But this also had Daniel Bryan winning the IC title in a great ladders match, much like the IC ladders match in 32, with a lot of great high spots, and Daniel winning it was bittersweet because he'd have to give it up soon after that due to his concussions. But this also had Cena vs. Rusev, which was just a fantastic spectacle. Not only was it a good match, but you had Rusev coming out on a tank. When you got a tank at a Mania, it's going to make a list.
Didn't this one also have Rollins versus Orton with the disgusting...
Oh, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
It also had the best RKO you will ever see. Going for the curb stomp, Randy popping him up, hitting that RKO. And lastly, we had a microcosm of the Monday Night Wars with Sting versus Triple H. And goddamn WWE, I didn't think you'd make me root against Sting, but when you made it WCW versus WWE, since I've always been Team WWE, I had to root. And the best part of it was you had the NWO come out, you had DX come out, and then Shawn Michaels was the equalizer, who sweet chin music Sting, something none of us thought we'd ever see. We got to see it, and it was great. I was part of me was kind of hoping though that the NWO would turn on Hogan and Sting, since they're Clique members, but that match boiled down to a lot of fun, and it really didn't matter who won that match. Again, a Mania moment. It was just a fun. In fact, I think after I'm done with this, I'm going to go rewatch that match. That's how much fun that match is. Coming in at number 3, WrestleMania 19. Again, I talk about 2 of these matches on my list, so I'll start with the one that's not on my list for best Mania matches, Austin vs. Rock. The final time we saw Austin vs. Rock. We saw Austin hit the rock bottom. We saw Rock hit the Stone Cold Stunner. We saw Rock wearing Austin's vest. We saw everything. They pulled out all the stops for this. Austin couldn't go like he normally could because his back was failing him, or his neck. I can't remember if his back.
I thought it was a heart problem.
No, that's 17.
Oh, that's 17.
That he drank too many. No, I'm sorry, that wasn't 17. That was 18 with the NWO. He drank too many Red Bulls basically, and is having heart palpitations for it.
Gotcha.
But no, maybe it was 19. Those 17 through 19 blur together.
They do. They really do.
One of the matches, Austin drank too many energy drinks and had to go to the hospital, and the doctor's like, "You're fine." But that was a great end to Austin's career. Of course, he put The Rock over like you're supposed to do when you're leaving. But then we also had the show stealer, Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho. Just a phenomenal match. more detail of that match, check out link below. Or actually, at the end of this video, you can click on it. The top Mania matches. And then we had Angle versus Brock, which, again, great match. Capitalized with the oh shit moment of, did we just see Brock Lesnar kill himself with that shooting star press? Coming at number 2. Now, this match, this is going to be controversy. Because this is everybody's number 1. It's my number 2, and I'll explain when I get to number 1 why it's number 2. X7. This is the most stacked Mania we probably ever saw. And rightfully so, it should be number 1, but I have personal reasons why it's number 2. But this saw Benoit versus Angle in a great match. Triple H Taker number 1, and their career match, end of an era match is on my best match list. Again, come back to see that. And then we saw TLC 2, and then this was Rock Austin, where Austin goes heel, where he joins Vince McMahon. He turned heel to beat The Rock for the WWE title. It was just a great Mania from top to bottom. Few light spots, mostly hits on here. And if you haven't seen this Mania or you haven't seen it in a while, go back and rewatch it. And then my number 1, and again, personal reasons, WrestleMania 12. I mean, you had the Goldust Roddy Piper fun match of the Backlot Brawl.
Fantastic.
It was hilarious. We saw Piper getting hit by a car. We saw the birth of Stone Cold Steve Austin here, the unofficial birth, because this is where he purposely lost the Caribbean strap match to Savio Vega to get DiBiase fired. And then his very next interview with Michael Hayes after that was, man, that's cold. That's right. It's Stone Cold, which is the official birth of Stone Cold Steve Austin. We had Undertaker versus Kevin Nash and then Diesel, which was a fun match with, again, proper build. We had Diesel cost Taker against Bret Hart for the title, so that started their feud. Then we had an In Your House, Diesel versus Bret, and that's when we had Taker come out from under the ring. It was a cage match. He came from under the ring and pulled Kevin Nash into the bottom of the ring with all the smoke and everything coming out. So that was a nice blow off there, and a good match to send Diesel packing to WCW. Then we had the Warrior squash Triple H. Gets in the ring, pedigree, shakes it off, buries him, which then, of course, we have Triple H's 2 accounts of that match, where he simply talks trash about the Warrior and the destruction of the Ultimate Warrior. And then we have the New Warrior DVD where it's like, oh no, I didn't mind at all. You know, it was a great moment for me. Corporate speak. And then, of course, we had the Iron Man match of Shawn and Bray. Probably the only 2 guys in the history of the business who could have a no-falls Iron Man match go into overtime and keep it entertaining and tell a great story throughout, which then put Shawn Michaels over as the guy. So there you have it. There is my top 10 list of the best Manias ever. Like I said, click in the picture below. You know, you can subscribe right here. We're going to have the videos right here. One of them will be the podcast. The other will be my top matches of all time. So check those out. And as always, I'm Josh McCain, ClashOfTheNerds.com. You can follow us at Clash of the Nerds on Twitter, or just at JOMac006 on the Twitters if you want to follow me. Watch wrestling.